The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, a space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today.
Today, we have a question from Ari, who lives in Liverpool, England, or at least who writes to us from Liverpool. And Ari says, it now appears that Netanyahu is signaling that Israel intends to take control of roughly 70% of Gaza. I can't imagine this ending well for Israel. No matter how anyone tries to frame it, this is, in plain terms, a military occupation, and the world is already expressing outrage. The United States, meanwhile, has remained largely silent. Here in Great Britain, Jews are facing harsh backlash, and support for the Palestinians continues to grow. I know there are many theories about why Netanyahu would float such a move, but I'd like to hear the panel's take. Wouldn't this dramatically complicate the ongoing conflict with Iran? Would it make it even harder for the U.S. to extract itself from the Iran crisis? If Israel actually follows through, does it risk becoming a pariah state on the world stage? What should the U.S. be doing right now, if anything? And finally, why do you think Netanyahu is considering this at all? Is it a genuine plan, or just another strategic threat meant to distract from other pressures he's facing? Yeah, excellent. Ari, thank you. I also heard that, and I was very much alarmed. And I also heard Netanyahu, I think, say something about, and then they would begin to take the rest or something. Yeah. So, Scott?
Yeah,
I'm depending on you.
Well, I don't have any happy news for you. Sorry to say. The idea that this is going to be an occupation sort of relies on the idea that there's going to be somebody there to be occupied, and I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. What I see more and more from the Israelis, at least the right wing of Israel, is this idea that, we've been playing footsie with this idea for a really long time. Let's just get it over with and ethnically cleanse Israel. And that would include the West Bank and Gaza. Now, that's a lot of people to offload. And I don't know how it could ever honestly be done. I myself cling to this idea of a two-state solution as the only solution there, but the worse the bad blood gets, and it's probably about as bad as it's been, the harder I think it is to say that this is that is the solution to the problem. Netanyahu has become, I think, a hostage to his own parties, his own coalition, and is in a really, really bad spot, just like Trump is. And I feel pretty much the same about Netanyahu that I do Trump. Like, I love Israel, but I hate Netanyahu. I love America, but I hate Trump. I despise these men and what they have become, what they have gotten us all into. The fact remains, it is what we are in, and we need to do something to get out of it. So when Hezbollah answers Netanyahu by saying, we're not interested in a ceasefire, keep coming. We're good with this. We're gonna fight this one out. Take them at their word. They're gonna fight this out. Hamas is not going away. Hamas has, there was a 3-part or a 4-part agreement. We're still in part 1 in Gaza. It hasn't. Nothing has happened. And now it seems more and more likely that they will finally build what they have long dreamed of, which is the Ben Gurion Canal. The Ben Gurion Canal is an alternative to the Suez Canal, an alternative to the Strait of Hormuz, an alternative to, to the Middle East as it exists today. And it's 190-mile canal that goes from the Mediterranean to the Gulf of Aqaba and the Red Sea. And it sliced right through the Negev desert and right through Gaza. And seems more and more likely to actually happen now than ever before. And I think they came up with this idea in like the 1960s. It's obviously has never even gotten off the ground, but now it seems that there's a reason to do it. And guess who's in the way? The Palestinians. And so it's not an occupation if you kick everybody off the land and fill it with water. And that seems to be the next thing that's going to happen. I mean, it seems like a pipe dream, but the more and more, the Middle East changes, the more the topography becomes less of an obstacle and more of an opportunity. And so this is what Trump and Jared Kushner's dream is. It is probably what Netanyahu's dream is, to create this waterway and turn the Mediterranean coast into some kind of sea route that of great importance to the world. Who knows? I mean, it seems crazy to me, but the situation has to, one way or another, has to resolve. And this is it's probably not first or second or third choice of anybody, but it's there, and it could happen.
Yeah, I saw this, and I've also seen reporting that said that now Netanyahu's cabinet basically says take the whole thing over, be over and done with. Yes, and of course this is coming from England, and the statement that he made, which was kind of concerning to me, which was in the first part, says that the retaliation against the Jewish population in Great Britain is becoming more and more obvious. I mean, there was a couple of incidents over the past few weeks with Jews in Great Britain, and the support for Palestinians continues to grow. Why Netanyahu would do this? Is this just bluster, or is this a distraction? I don't think it is, simply because his cabinet seems to be all on board with it, and it's the type of cabinet that you would expect to be on board with it. I know that it's getting a lot of condemnation from the rest of the world, because, as Scott pointed out quite rightly, this is a lot of people you want to move. And if you're not moving them, what exactly are you doing with them? And, as we've always said here, it's easy to take over a country, but when you're occupying it, that's where the hard work really starts. And that's where you start putting those young people in the Israeli Defense Forces at true risk, when it's occupation. Occupation never works out very well. And it may last a while, but it never lasts forever. The fact is that occupation is tough and is dangerous, because you're always going to, especially if you leave the indigenous population or the people that were there beforehand in place, because you're always going to have resistance. And we've seen that throughout history. Some of the greatest setbacks in World War II for the Germans wasn't only the armies, but was also the French resistance. And the resistance forces in all these different countries, that the people that were there that basically stood up and said, no, occupation, bad. We're going to be up against it. And, so today, if I was in Israel today and I had a son that was in the Israeli Defense Forces, I would be scared to death of this. This would frighten me to no end, because I know that it's just simply, it's an old man putting somebody else's kids in harm's way. And I really can't see why. Maybe it is take some of the pressure off. I would like to know what the Israeli people think of this. We're only hearing about what, Netanyahu and his cabinet's saying. I don't know if there's been a poll done on it. Beats me. But I'd like to see what the Israeli populace thinks of this. And you're right that this is really beginning to look more like a pariah state. And I'm with Scott. I love Israel. I love the United States. I hate both of their leaders because they have degraded those nations, to such an extent that the rest of the world basically doesn't know what to do with either one of us for two different reasons. For us, because we're a world superpower, supposedly. But for Israel, everybody has always tried to support Israel because it's, like Scott has mentioned numerous times, it's a great experiment. I mean, it really is a fabulous experiment to see that this nation was created after World War II, and the miracle of what Israel could be. And it just seems like Netanyahu and his cabinet seem to just want to take it backwards. And that's really, truly a shame in my mind, because there's so much potential here. Palestinians are always going to be an issue, and I'm not a supporter of Palestinians. Please do not think that. I am not a supporter of Palestinians. I know that when Saddam Hussein attacked Kuwait and tried to occupy Kuwait, the Palestinians who were welcomed into Kuwait were the first ones to help the Iraqis. So they have shown many times not to be the best partners. Even if you're bringing them into your country with open arms. So I'm not a big fan. But the fact is you've got to put them someplace. They have to go someplace. You cannot annihilate them. Genocide is not an answer, even though some people think it is an answer. I don't. I'm a firm believer genocide is never an answer. And there's going to come a point in time where the rest of the world just simply will not come to Israel's defense anymore. Netanyahu has already said he wants to break away from the financial ties he has to the United States as far as military is concerned. I got news for you, Bibi. You're in the wrong neighborhood. What you got, Scott?
Well, I mean, as you were talking, I was thinking about the all the problems in the world, right? Yeah. And Iran, the big problem is that there's a sort of an insane faction of Muslims that have taken over that country, and whether they're cynical or whether they're true believers, I have absolutely no idea, but they are a huge problem. And in Israel, it is the ultra-Orthodox that was against the formation of Israel from the beginning, but has migrated there more and more. That is now the problem. Fanatical religion. I don't care if it's Christian here in the United States, fanatical Jews in Israel, fanatical Muslims in the Muslim countries are the problem. And how did we get here in this century where these ancient religions have such a stronghold on so many people and are creating such disruptions around the world? It is utterly bizarre to me that this could even happen at this point in human development, where these religions have taken on such a huge role and been such power players. And the ultra-Orthodox are creating these problems in Israel. Israel was founded as a kibbutznik socialist, country that is now more and more over the years, but now very much so, held hostage by these religious, I would call it a cult. The Haredim is a cult, and it does not represent what, to me, growing up, Judaism was, right? Having grown up in an extremely reform, New York sort of quasi-intellectual socialist, whatever you want to say, we were, whatever the Woody Allen terms are for what we are, is nothing like what we're seeing in Israel right now. And And by the way, while we speak, the New York Times has an article about the ultra Orthodox rioting in front of a judge's house in Israel because the judge wants them to serve in the military, and they refuse because they're men of God and they
Yeah.
can't be put into the military. So it's not going to be their sons that go. It'll be the less religious sons that end up fighting this fight. I mean, the whole world has just gone crazy, and somebody needs to sort of secularize the world and get back to something approaching sanity, because these religious types are just making it all too insane.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. We have the evangelicals here in the United States, which also are a form of a cult. I'm a Roman Catholic. I grew up a Roman Catholic, but I will say this: many of my, I've said this before on this podcast, and in person, I'm probably what would be considered a cafeteria Catholic. I'll pick and choose what parts I really want to pay attention to. And if the rule was made before the 16th century, we probably ought to relook at it and consider making changes to it. Religion and organized religion have been the cause of conflict in the world since its inception. You go all the way back to the Crusades. There's so many examples, and we have never learned. We have never learned that, religion really, in a lot of cases, is the root of a lot of our problems that we have here. And I think it's kind of hypocritical. And as Scott said, the ultra-Orthodox Jews did not want Israel, but boy, they've sure as hell taken advantage of it. And they've taken advantage of all the things that Israel can offer. And somebody needs to call them out, and we need to start calling out these religions and these organized religions, because the fact is that they're not helping anything. They're not helping anything at all. Here in the United States, you'll have the evangelicals who worship an idol, which is like the first commandment, guys. You're not supposed to do that. But somehow they're able to justify what they're doing, and to me it's all it's a mess. I don't think Netanyahu is doing anything because of religion. I don't think Trump does anything because of religion. I think they both just play lip service to it, but they use it as an excuse, and they will tell those cults what they want to hear so that they get the support. There's no doubt about that. Now, the other part of the question is, what should the United States be doing? I don't know if there's anything we can do. I truly don't know if there's anything that we possibly can do at this point in time. We are so neutered in the world. We are so neutered in that region. We've shown ourselves to be incapable, incompetent, especially this administration, in dealing with that region, to the point where now we're in a war that we can't extricate ourselves from. And yeah, Ari, I agree with you. This could complicate that quite a bit. Well, it's just one of those things. We have to sit back and wait and see what happens. I know Trump supposedly had a conversation on the phone with Netanyahu, and it was heated, and this, that, and the other. But I'm not sure. I'm truly not sure how much influence that he has anymore, because let's face it, he's proven himself to be neutered. And
yeah, and I'll add a little to that. I think a little speculation, a little fun. Well, let's have a little fun with this.
A little fun,
because you could consider yourself a cafeteria Catholic. I grew up as the son of I guess what you would generously call a cafeteria Jew. My father's idea of being kosher was not eating bacon on Saturday.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. Any other day of the week, including Sunday, was fine. On Saturday, no, we have to keep kosher as best we possibly can. And that would be the limit of it. So, very, very loose. I actually brought the King James version of the Bible to read my Haftorah from, to the outrage of my rabbi when I got bar mitzvah. I had the shortest bar mitzvah of all time, because I didn't do anything. I couldn't read anything. I couldn't say anything. He wouldn't let me say what I wanted to say. But here's the thing that I think Israel needs to watch out for. Trump has changed sides in the Ukraine versus Russia war,
Yes.
right? I mean, to the extent that there was a a Cold War aspect to it, we sort of automatically took the Ukrainian side of the Cold War, and Trump turned that around. He is going to turn around on Taiwan and allow China to do what they want. I don't think that's going to end up being an invasion, because that would be a very difficult thing for China to do. But I know that Taiwan's opposition leader, who is China friendly, has gone to Washington to talk to Trump and talk to Congress. We know from recent history, that Trump ordered the Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, who was one of the co-founders of the Taliban, released from prison in 2018, so that he had somebody to negotiate with and get us out of Afghanistan and switch sides. The side that we were on for 20 years was no longer our side. We took the other side in that. Trump took the other side. And when the Afghani negotiator got shot, her and her sister got shot, an assassination attempt, she showed up with her arm in a sling with the bullet hole still in it, with the bullet still in her arm, and tried to negotiate in good faith for the Afghani people. And Trump simply turned around and said, no, we're not allowing your being shot to stop us from getting ourselves out of Afghanistan, and turned the country over to the Taliban. Netanyahu has to watch out, because Trump will change sides. Trump will take the Palestinian side in that war, in that conflict. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if he just completely flipped on Netanyahu and started supporting the Palestinians, and to the point of arming them and in any number of different things. Put nothing past the man. He is capable.
Yep.
So they got to watch that. I don't think there's anything else. I mean, Israel probably can be independent if they wanted to be, but I don't think anything's going to stop them. I don't see what's going to stop them from marching every self-identifying Palestinian out of that country at the end of a bayonet. I mean, if it's 8 million people, if it's 2 million people, whatever it is, at the end of a bayonet, cross the Negev desert, cross into Jordan, which would destabilize Jordan, by the way, which really is the Palestinian state, cross over into Egypt, which had closed off Gaza just as much as Israel had, who doesn't want them. What stops them? And then they build this big canal and have some kind of rapport with Saudi Arabia or whatever it is. Commerce rules in this. Everything is transactional. There are no loyalties.
No. And I totally agree with Scott on that. I mean, if Netanyahu, and for as much as I really cannot stand Netanyahu, I don't think that he's a stupid man to have convinced himself that he can trust Trump. And Scott's right. It's very possible that that Trump changes sides, and he's known for that. He's known to change sides at the drop of a hat. And so whoever the last person is talking to him is really the one that influences him. So yeah, that's very possible. And that's what makes the question of what should the United States be doing so difficult. Because we could probably say what if a different president was in power would be doing, but you cannot predict what Trump will do or his cronies. There's just no way to predict it. It's going to be down to dollars and cents. How could he benefit the most from whatever he does, and screw whoever gets caught in it. So, those people in Israel who are thinking that Trump's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and there are people that do that. Yeah. You're kidding yourselves, guys. He'll dump you like a hot potato if he thinks that it's in his best interest.
If there's a nickel in it for him.
That's exactly right. He will dump you and leave you hanging. And what Netanyahu is getting you into is, we always said never fight a two-front war. He's getting you into he's getting you into a 360-degree war. You're going to be fighting against everybody. And although I have the greatest respect and confidence in the military of Israel, that's a heavy lift, people. And the people that are going to suffer the most are going to be the people of Israel. And that's a shame. That's an opportunity that's lost. And I feel bad for Israel in this case because I don't think most Israelis want this. I don't. Yes, there was, the October disaster that happened. Yep. You've got your revenge. If you're going Old Testament revenge, you got it. Now it's time to, a little bit of fixing. And Netanyahu seems to be not in the least bit interested in fixing anything, sort of like Trump.
What about Lebanon?
Well, what about it?
Yeah, what about
Well, I mean, the Israel is, aren't they like 20 miles into Lebanon?
Yeah, but I mean, they say that they're searching for Hezbollah. Hezbollah has pulled back from the border, and they're deeper in, and Hezbollah continues to be defiant, and I imagine they're shooting missiles and shooting rockets or whatever, and the Israelis are going after them. Nothing's changed there really at all, other than the fact that they're deeper in than they ever were. I mean, I guess you would have to keep your eye on Syria and see how that's going. Obviously, you want to keep a good eye on Jordan, because once these countries go, then the world we're really in World War III, and it's an ugly war to be in. And I just hopefully everybody can hold it together while this somehow resolves itself. But there are really no good solutions anymore. They've all worked themselves into, I mean, if you took like the August 1914 and you spread it out over a long period of time, that's kind of where we are. We're in the guns of August, but it's taken a lot longer to develop than it had in 1914 to get the entire world involved in this thing. And it's good, what we saw after that was empires toppling and allegiances happening and things moving around and massive population shifts and all kinds of stuff like that. And I think that, once the violence stops, the sort of craziness, and really led right into World War II, that we're there again. The decisions that were made after World War II haven't really panned out any better than they did after World War I. The UN lasted longer than the League of Nations, but what is the UN at this point? The sort of I wrote a paper back when we were at Nova called Double Dip Colonialism, which was about the idea that some of these places went from the Ottoman Empire into the British or the French empires, and the colonialism just is so deeply rooted that they can't fight their way out of it. And that's what they've been trying to do, for the longest time. It is a violent upheaval, but in very, very slow motion.
Yeah, and the difference there also is that, the world today is still dependent upon the commodity that comes out of the Middle East. The more instability that exists in the Middle East, whether it's our fighting Iran or whatever, any kind of instability that we're looking at, that's going to impact everyone. Scott's correct. We have usually when you get into these things, there's an exit strategy. Most good leaders that, don't take their countries into disasters have an exit strategy. There was never an exit strategy. When it started, there was never, really clear goals. The goals changed all the time. Usually there's, clear goals. No, Iran was not 2 weeks from having an atomic bomb. Stop. I mean, that's just the silliest ass thing I've ever heard. That's not true. And if that's the justification, that's a worse justification than our attack on Iraq when we said they had weapons of mass destruction. that they turned out not to have, which is one of the reasons that Scott hates George W. Bush as much as he does, which is understandable. The fact is that we got into this without any idea of what we wanted to do. We would change the goalpost depending on the day. We have been told it's over. We've been told we've won. Oh, now it's not over. Now we've got a peace deal. Oh, now we don't got a peace deal. It's so chaotic. And when we're talking about international relations, and all of us studied this, you can't have this kind of chaos and have anything successful come out of it, especially when we're talking about a region that is historically chaotic, and we've just made it worse. And now you've got Netanyahu in there, basically just stirring it up as much as he possibly can. So this is going to impact everyone. And as I say, it's so difficult today to be able to say, okay, this is what the United States should do, because we can't even figure out why the hell we've done what we've done at this point in time. So I don't know. What's your exit strategy? Who knows?
Yeah, we didn't even have an entrance strategy. It was just sort of, we kind of, Israel was going to go, and then we decided, we had to go with them. No, we didn't have to do that. They could have just, the whole thing was there was no thinking. While we were having peace negotiations or negotiating diplomatic talks, and now Trump is saying, I don't care, I'm bored, or whatever it was that he actually did say. Nothing like, he can't keep his mouth shut. Iran they're going to throw up their hands and say, forget it. We'll just keep the strait closed. We'll close the other strait and bye-bye. And we'll make deals with the other nations. And I would not be surprised if Iran meant it when they said, we are going to be closed forever to American traffic. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
You reminded me of yesterday, I guess it was, Trump was showing how long the Lincoln Memorial, the reflecting pool is. and I saw on Threads, they had a picture of his chart, which shows that it's bigger than the Empire State Building and the Freedom Tower. And it says on top of it, our pool is bigger than, longer than their, whatever it was. And somebody on Threads had written, his entire career is based on the fact that he's surrounded by people who won't tell him he's bonkers. And it really does feel like that's where we're at. This lunatic is making decisions, and the groupthink is so deep that nobody is willing to say, you need to know how to get out of it if you're going to get into it. Certainly, the Secretary of Defense would never do that. He'll just go along with it. So that's groupthink number one. Rubio, I don't even know what that guy's doing. I saw there are some people really good with AI, and they had Rubio with the Milli Vanilli dreads on. And it said, in addition to being the national security advisor and the Secretary of State, now he's playing Milli Vanilli at this concert that's coming up on the 4th of July. Just what are they doing? What is this all about? Why are you letting this lunatic run rampant over the entire world? Somebody's got to put an end to it. He's obviously mentally ill. He is so clearly delusional. He was told, by the way, he said he wasn't told. He was told that the Strait of Hormuz was the trump card that Iran would play. He had to know that. And he said, and I know that he said this because I've seen it reported, he said, we'll get them to surrender before they could do that. Based on what?
Yeah.
Based on what? The fact that you've been a lucky bastard your whole life, you were born with $400 million. Based on the fact that you can run through any number of bankruptcies and other people are always going to be left holding the bag and you won't be. That is this guy's life.
Yeah.
Based on his delusion that he's special and because he is mentally ill. That's what it's based on.
Now we're all mentally ill because of him.
Yeah.
Hey, he can identify an elephant.
And a horse and a
can.
dog. Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't have an elephant, but I can identify my dog and my horse is out there.
He can draw from 1A to 2B to 3C.
Yeah,
Oy,
big deal.
oy vey, as my grandfather would say.
Yeah, I
Oy-
still say
Oy
I still say
freaking vey.
he really belongs in a locked ward. And his family and other people are not, I mean, to me, it's elderly abuse. I mean, they're not helping him by allowing him to publicly humiliate himself and to be in such a position of such stress and such power. I mean, they're putting his family, they're putting the whole world at risk. The cabinet and everybody else are the ones who ought to be very well aware that they're putting everyone in danger, including themselves, and that this man needs mental health treatment and he needs to be secure, put in a quiet spot where he can enjoy himself.
Or thrown in a volcano. Either way. It's all good.
Well, I would say in a locked ward where he, like Mar-a-Lago with gates, and he can't really leave, and he can go out and get
floated out to sea.
Well, I wouldn't do that, but I mean, he can go from the Mar-a-Lago to McDonald's and back home and stuff like that in a controlled environment. And he can play golf.
And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Phoenix Research Group, an independent research consortium dedicated to providing solutions to social and political issues for NGOs and international government agencies. Through multidisciplinary, nonpartisan, and unbiased research, the Phoenix Research Group advances understanding and practical strategies for complex challenges. The Phoenix Research Group is a division of the Phoenix Research Institute, the producer of the Nova Society podcast.